Unit9 or something.
It's right. Live demo. That's how it works.
Yeah. So let's see. Yeah, this one seems to be behaving itself. Cool. So this is a rig I built a while back. This is there's a guy called Florian Crochet, I think. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, but he made these. I was on ArtStation and he made this cool skeleton of a leopard, and I asked him if he would mind sending it to me if I could rig it, and he very kindly did. So I've got touch on the Cintiq. That's Maya doesn't seem to like that for some reason. That might be what was going on there. But so yeah, I'll block out a really quick kind of like a very rough walk cycle maybe with this guy, just to sort of show the tools. So the whole idea with them really is that they kind of mirror poses, but they also sort of adapted to my more current workflow. I used to be more like I used to use more of like a treadmill sort of workflow for building walk cycles, kind of like you do with games, where the character's just kind of walking in place, and then you use this root control then to move them through space. But actually studying with Marco and studying on a recent course as well, with another animator, I noticed that some people were using more of like where they actually walk the character off the spot. And for some poses, particularly the down pose and a walk, it can be much easier to get that if you're translating the character off the spot. So I'll show you what I mean. Saying I'm going to try and rough this out super quick. So say you've got something like this. Say this is our. What I like to do is get the contact pose on the front. I'm going to kind of work really from the side view and not worry too much about how these poses look from the front, just to sort of illustrate the tools, because I'll get really bogged down if I try and polish things. What I'm going to do is I'm going to key those feet there on that pose, and then on frame 25, say I'm doing a 24 frame cycle, and then on 13 I'll key them again, and I'll use the button here to mirror them, and that will mirror. It'll also mirror any of the attributes on the rig. It's mirroring the position and the rotation, but it's also mirroring any of the. If I have a toe wriggle on this one, it'll mirror that onto the other one. It'll mirror foot roll and knee twist, any of those attributes that are there. And then I also need to mirror these two guys. These are like the kind of hawk controls. So I'm going to key them there, and then I can just mirror them as arms, as FK. So now I've got the character kind of walking back and forward, like, so that's kind of like, I'm sort of, I guess I sort of work in sort of a layered sort of approach for walks. I work a little bit differently for runs, maybe more of a pose to pose. But I'm using a button there to just mirror the FK controls again as well. And then I'm going to maybe just put down a key on the body controller, or the chest, just to kind of key that position in there. And the thing that I find tricky a lot of times with a walk is the down pose. Like, say if this is frame 7 where the passing pose is, the down might be on frame 4. And I don't want this leg to come up yet. I want that still to be on the ground to make the down pose convincing. And you can do that by working out like how far is this sliding back over these few frames, and using a calculator to figure that out. But it's kind of tedious. So one of the newer tools I've been working on is this sort of stride length. Kind of a calculator sort of built into this tool. So if I just select these two controls here and press this button here, get stride length, it works out how far apart the feet are in Z. The other thing I'm going to do is just make things simpler. I'm going to make sure I'm set to linear. I already am, but set it. I like to block out these kind of things in linear because I don't get easing. I don't get like what you get with spline or auto tangents. I don't get sort of Maya kind of making things kind of mushy, but I also get some interpolation. Like, it's not as brutal as just animating and stepped, where I've just I have to build everything. I at least have something I can build, and for walks and runs, I think it's pretty handy. So I'm going to actually, rather than animating this in a treadmill way, I'm going to use the tool to animate it walking off the spot. And that'll give sort of a demonstration of how the current state of it is. So in this example, I'm going to start with just the basic poses, just the contacts and the passing poses. And I know just from basic, anatomy with quadrupeds, if in a typical walk, like, obviously it's not exactly like this, but as a general idea, when the front legs are in contact, the back legs are in passing. and that kind of flips as the character walks. So I'm going to do a quick kind of passing pose on the back. I might bring the hips up a little bit, and bring this foot off, so it's kind of ready to come into the ground. It's ready to kind of land down there where this foot was, where that's going to lift off from. And I'm going to maybe push this over a little bit, and maybe just tilt it down a bit just to show there's a bit of weight there. I say I'm going to do this very rough. Like I would spend a lot more time on these poses in real life, but just to kind of keep this, I sometimes think animation demos are kind of cool, but sometimes they can be like watching paint dry. You're kind of like watching somebody animate something and rotate a controller for 5 minutes or pose a hand. Like that's not fun for anybody, even for the person doing it. So anyway, I put that. I'm going to get rid of these keys. You notice I actually delete keys a lot. That's actually something, part of my workflow, I guess, is I have a hotkey for delete. I just have X. So I have S for set key, if it's a standard hotkey, and I have X for cut key, because I find I delete keys almost as often as I set them. It's just kind of the way I work. So we've implemented some PathAnim in this too. No, it's a different tool to PathAnim. Like basically the way you can think about it is PathAnim is for when you've got a walk cycle and you want to take it and move it through space. This is my process for actually building the cycle to begin with. Like I'll walk this off the spot while I'm animating it, but I will eventually put it back on the spot so I can bake it. The reason I found that, particularly even for run cycles, I find that if you animate something in treadmill, sometimes it can be quite hard to see how big the stride should be for the feet, like how much ground they should be covering before you get the character moving. That was something I learned from Marco Folia. He said, you should always kind of block something in roughly and then move it through space and see how it feels. Because sometimes you can have something and it just looks slow going through space, and you kind of zoom out a little bit. And so I think that's quite a big thing. Like the treadmill way of animating like that, it's efficient, but it's also kind of misleading sometimes. So in this case, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to start with it in space. I'm actually going to turn it back into a treadmill walk at the end, and I'll show you. And again, the tool has stuff to simplify that. So I've got these front pose, or the front feet. I've got like contact, other contact, and then contact again. The back feet, I've just got a passing pose for now. I'm going to build everything else from that. So I've as I say, I've selected these two, and I've gotten the stride length, which is 51.8547 units. And I don't want to have to deal with that kind of stuff. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just mirror mouse. I've already copied that pose, but not with the stride length in there. So I'm going to mirror that over here. I use middle mouse drag a lot to kind of copy poses. So I can kind of middle mouse and just go over here and then just hit S. So now I've copied that pose exactly where it was. And then I'm going to hit mirror IK feet. But because I've plugged in the stride length, now it's actually going to add that. Rather than just mirroring it in place, it's going to move them and mirror it. So I just do that. So now it's mirrored them off that like that. And then I'm going to do the same thing over here. I'm going to just hit S to copy that pose. And then I'm going to mirror it again. So now my poor leopard has he's got cartoony legs stretching out for space. But now all I need to do is just move the chest the same amount. And again, this is where, you could use a calculator, but all I'm going to do is just going to select the chest control and hit plus stride, and then go over here and hit it twice to give it 2 strides. So now the chest is moving exactly as much as it should, and there's no sliding. It's interpolating exactly. And now I just need to do the same thing with the back feet. So the back feet, I'm starting with the inflation, because the chest I have pretty much in the middle. Whereas the pelvis, I've actually pushed it over a little bit, and I've rotated it a little bit down. I can exaggerate that just to make it more obvious. And when I go to frame 13, I can copy that pose and just mirror the spine. You see, it's actually mirrored it. It's mirrored the rotation and position, and it's slid it off the spot. And then I need to plus the stride length. And then I do the same thing once more here, mirror it, and then plus the stride length. So now I've got, it doesn't look like a walk yet, but I've got sort of basic stuff figured out. I've got the key poses for the front feet, and I've got the stride length figured out, and it's very quick to get that. So now I would start with the next most important breakdown, which is the passing pose on the front feet and the contact pose on the back feet. And the contact pose on the back feet is pretty easy to get because I need to check this one as well. tangents linear. So now I've got sort of a basic contact pose on the back feet, and I just push this down maybe to kind of get, I'm using the interpolation to kind of get it, like that's giving me a halfway pose. And then I might play around with these a little bit to get some weight in there. Maybe this could come down, and this could come down. So I'm going to say, again, I spend a lot longer on these poses normally, but that's kind of a basic back pose for the back feet there on the contact. And the thing is, I'm kind of using the anatomy. I started off, I like to start with the front legs because the front legs on the quadruped are generally the more flexible ones. So I like to work out the stride length from those, and then just kind of use that then as a guide for what the back legs will do. So I'm going to do the same thing I did with the front legs now. Now I have like one passing pose, so I can just middle mouse over here to 19 and just mirror them. So now I've got the other one. And then I just need to mirror these guys, copy that pose and mirror it. At the moment, that's called mirror FK arms, but it's mirror anything FK really. I'm still working on the icons and stuff, so they'll make a bit more sense. And the other thing I need to do is mirror this pose over here, mirror the spine, and then just give a stride down to it. So this isn't, pretty animation by any means, but I've got something in there very quickly that I can react to. And now I'm going to just build a passing pose on the front legs. So I'm going to bring the body up a bit so they get more of a straight. I might put some weight on this shoulder, pull it up a little bit. Maybe push it over a little bit and tilt it down. And obviously, for more realism, you'd work from reference and figure out what the poses should really look like. But I'm just kind of doing it roughly for this. And so say I've got something like this, and then I put a bit of weight on that leg. It's kind of back and forth, particularly with quadrupeds, between the scapula. I'll drop this gap down to show the weight is falling off that one. Maybe something like that. It's got a nicer shape there. So now I'm going to say that's my pose for this. So I middle mouse over there and then mirror that. And then I middle mouse this over here, mirror the spine, and then add a stride length to it again. And then I just need to mirror these guys as well. Mirror those. And I need to mirror these. I'll use my walk cycle tool for those because I need to mirror the position as well. Whoops, I need to not add the stride length for that. I'll just turn that off for a second. This just disables adding the stride length into things because for the scapulas, obviously, I don't want them to move forward in space separate to the chest. That would look pretty weird. So there I've got basic, I've got the basic poses and I've kind of figured it out pretty quickly. And then if I want to get this treadmilling, if I want to go back to this being on a treadmill, I just keyframe the root control. I just keyframe it here and I just minus stride twice. So now I've got it walking in place. And a nice thing I like to do as well, I'm going to save incremental actually just before Maya crashes on me. Now I've got sort of a basic, something I can react to. And what I like to do as well, sometimes with this, I like to switch back and forward between off the spot and treadmill. And you can do it by musing the channels up here, but a nice quick way to do it, I must have already done it here, I'll delete this. But if you just create a layer, an override layer from selected, this is another thing I got from Marco Folia, was he just uses animation layers like crazy, and they're really, really useful. I wasn't a big user of them, but that just means it's just locked that, because if it's an override layer, it just means whatever's on this layer, there's nothing on it, basically. We'll just override whatever's underneath it. So now if I want to get him walking off the spot, I just turn that on, and if I want to get him in treadmill, I just mute it. So it's just a very quick way. I have like kind of a way of just very quickly kind of switching that on or off. You're asking there, is he a teacher at iAnimate? Yeah, he is. Yeah, really good. As I say, yeah, I did workshop one of the creature course with him. So now I can start kind of playing around with stuff. I can like this foot pose. I would start breaking this down a bit more. And it's quite easy now as well because he's moving off the spot. I don't have to really worry. I can just copy the pose. That's actually another thing I just used there quickly without probably commenting on it. the kind of fundamental part of cycle tools here, and my own tool set has the same thing. Are these two buttons here, which are basically my version of Tween Machine. I was talking earlier about how I wrote Tween Machine for Cinema 4D. I actually wrote it the way I thought it worked. It was kind of funny. And then when I got to using it in Maya, I went, oh, now I can just download Tween Machine and just use it. I found that it actually didn't work exactly how I thought it did. And mine worked differently. So I ended up writing my own version for Maya the way that mine works. And it's kind of similar, it's very similar to Tween Machine, but it's just a little bit different. And I found I didn't really like using the sliders a lot. So what I ended up doing was just having these two buttons that have, I don't know if you can see it down here, down in the tooltips here. If I hover over these, it has like Shift for a halfway key, Control for smaller increments, or Alt for previous key. And this has the same thing idea, but Alt for the next key. So if I just want to copy a pose back, I just hold Alt and just click that, and now I've just keyed that back to exactly the same pose. Or if I want to nudge it forward a little bit, I can do that, that kind of thing. It's basically, I'd say, very much like a Tween Machine sort of tool. And then I might animate this one. I might animate the body coming down a bit more so that the leg isn't hyperextending. Something like that. Might be a little bit too much, but I might bring this leg down further. So again, Maya, I don't know why Maya does this, but it's still kind of selecting stuff, or it's still making things it's still splining things, even though I've got my settings set to linear.
So are you basically putting the animation back on a spot so you can tweak the walk, and then turning off the anim layer to test the stride and just seeing how your anim tweaks look when walking?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like the idea of having it going off the spot is that things like this pose in particular, this down pose, it's quite easy to build now. I don't have to worry about sliding the foot back. I just literally keep it where it was. Like if you look at its translate Z curve here, it's just literally staying where it was. Whereas if this root control, if the character was treadmilling, that would have to that curve wouldn't be like that. It would have to kind of match up. It would have to have the same movement basically as the front foot does. Like the front foot, it's translating Z. Actually, that's the wrong foot to look at, but this one, it's not moving in Z either because it's relative to the group control. So it just simplifies a lot of that stuff. Like I just find treadmill walks are great for some stuff, but they can be very confusing in the graph editor sometimes, and trying to get things to line up and trying to avoid. It's a big thing people talk about. Oh, my feet keep sliding and stuff like that, and this just kind of simplifies that. And then here I might just quickly build like an up pose. Maybe straighten the leg a little bit more. Maybe have that a little bit down, like the scamps are pushing down maybe. And I say again, I'm not going for super realism here. I would probably be better going looking at some reference to do a really good walk cycle, but something like that would. And then this would generally, I might even favor that towards the next pose just to kind of have that sort of reach that you get in kind of a catwalk. So something like that. And what I generally do is I build the first part of the cycle. Like I build these first poses, like the contact. I start with the contacts, then the passing, then I build the down and the up, or the squash and the high pose. Some people have different names for these ones, but usually the contact and the passings are kind of most important. And then I build them on the front or the front half of the cycle, and I just make sure they're keyed. And then I just copy them over here. So I just middle mouse and middle mouse. And then I just, you see they're broken again now because they don't have the stride length in there. So I just mirror them and mirror them. So now I'm back to that kind of working. And I need to mirror the chest then as well. So the same idea, I just mirror or just copy it first. And then I just mirror it plus the stride, mirror it and plus the stride. So now I've got that. I say this isn't realistic. This is, I go into the graph editor now and start polishing stuff. But I like that I've got very quickly. I've got something I can react to. I've got something that I can at least tell. Does this creature kind of feel right for the speed of it? I use a slightly different approach with run cycles. I tend to start them in treadmill, but I use the main control then to figure out how long the stride should be. So I kind of do it almost backwards.